Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my job shop. My name is Keith and I'm here repairing America one project at a time. Now, in the background, we got the WAZER running. I'm actually knocking out a little part there this morning as I'm out here working on the radar mast and getting caught up on it. We're forming the center section here, and in a minute here I'm going to get into laying out the exits where the wire chases are going to come to the outside components on the mast. But what we got cutting in the WAZER right now is two blanks that are designed after the two gaskets, or metal gaskets here, that the mechanic from one of the major construction sites down the main drag here requested. So we're trying to knock these plates out for them, and we're doing it on the WAZER because the small holes and the detail that we want to have done in one cut, and a little bit of Scotch-Brite deburr on the outside of the material, and the part goes off to the customer. All right, now we'll get on to the mast here. Thing just got through with our plates that we're making. All right, this is what you look like when you open it up. All right, and it's always nice to rinse this down, and you can rinse your parts right off too as well. I'm gonna have to go down to the auto parts store and buy a couple more of these here, just so that I can get a nice clean one, and we'll just dedicate it right for the WAZER machine. Like I said before, that's just stained with oil. I'll just raise this up out of the way just so you never forget about that, so it never hits the screws or anything. And there's a little tiny tab on this thing. That's why they're locked in. Even the little punch outs for the holes or the bolts. I'm gonna grab a little screwdriver, see if I can just pop those out without pulling the plate out right now. Okay, here's our little screwdriver there, and the little tang was just up there holding it in, and of course these right here can be just punched out like that. Boom, there you go. All right, and get the other one out here. All right, and let's compare them to our gaskets. We'll take the little one here first. Perfect. And here's the big one. They're both not very big, but this is the bigger of the two. All right, we're just gonna finish knocking those out, dress it up with the Scotch-Brite. We can call our customer and say he's got his two blank off plates ready. We're on to the main mast now. We need to put a wire port coming out for the array, one for the Skylink, and one for the light off the back side of the mast. It's going to come up to the top. And we want those holes to be in line with our port and coming out in a straight line. Well, what we've come up with is we've actually taken our piece that we prepped to go through for the chase to come from the spreaders to the main mast verticals. We took that tube, and we had it we actually cut it a little bit because it had an odd shape, so we were sculpting it out. So that's what we took a piece and we stuck it in there, and we go, hey, if that was all the way over there, there's our scribe tool. All right, so I put both pieces, the front and back. We split the top off of here now because we're actually going to be shortening this about a 1/4 inch or so. So a little bit over the 4 foot on the height there, and we have this sheet cut out and planned for a 4 foot height, but it'll probably be a 2-piece sheet because you can't slide it over both spreaders at the same time and get it into place, just because the angle difference of the spreaders. Okay, the top one angles back a little bit more because the angle is following the contour. It's 90 degrees off of that angle, so it does change. All right, so we got our tool. We've already put these up and we've already centered them because you can actually put them on there and they can be slightly off of rotation this way as well. And we had a jig plate that we originally had at the top, so it actually gave us our marks where this leading edge and this leading edge here were. We went up at the top, we put that up there, it's marking right. We come down here at the bottom and we verify equal points here and there, and then we put a mark here, mark here. So okay, so we can pull these off of here and put our sharpen in place there, clamp them back up in the right location, and then we can scribe out where our tube ports are going to be. All right, we take our sharpen and we're just going to coat the inside of this. All right, so we got a line down there and we got a line up here, and we're looking good there. All right, now let's go ahead and we'll pull back the top front here, and we're going to put the sharpen in 2 places here. And right here. Okay. That looks good. That looks good. All right. Now we take our scribe tool, which we're just going to slide it through the opening, and then we're just going to rotate it. So when you rotate that around, you're going to create the scribe, and it's going to give you a nice circle. So you don't really have to reach in there and take and try to scribe something around. And of course it goes in and out like that. And we're going in both directions a couple times. We're gonna make sure that we got a good line in there. This one's easier to see because it's so far in there. Okay, and pretty clean mark. There we go. All right. Now we're going to drill and we're going to rotary burr this hole out carefully there, because I just don't want to be making any mistakes, and I trust myself with the rotary burr. And we'll probably just take a couple of our reach over clamps and clamp it down right here so we don't distort or do anything with this. We're going to work that right by hand, get our pipe to slide through freely. Today is the day where I finally get to weld the spreaders into the Mast frame. We've made up our tubes that the wire chases go through. We verified what we're doing out for the array. We actually started fabricating that structural assembly that's coming out this way. We adjusted our angle so we prove where our link is going to come out for our Starlink, and we also have our exit that's going to be coming out for the anchor light, and we're going to have the exit coming out for the back, which we saw when we were in the other room there. I put this back up onto the table. I marked the center palm, or the pad down at the bottom, this is a sub pad. There's going to be a larger one that this whole thing will mount to, but this is to build the structure. I marked center line on it with the groove in the middle table here. And I put the level on here. And I said, hey, why don't we just go ahead and we'll use the mill to verify the alignment and the level of the spreaders to the mast itself. So I just barely have enough room on that far side of the lower over against the drill cabinet in this position here. I brought in my straight edge and I took the overreach rods on the mill and I extended them out, and I brought that spreader up to where I just came up to the straight edge with the level on there, and then I brought this over here and I proved that the squareness with the mill and the overarms is the same as the level on the bubble that I was reading. Also, both sides tend to go up, so I'm actually touching a little bit out here, and I also can go over this way here and I can see that I'm touching. So it's equally, and that's in the favor, you know, that's the spring load there. Of course, this is going to have lights on it. The lower one's just going to be for lighting. And we decided to put our pads that our lights will mount to and our antenna pads for the upper spreader on afterwards. We're going to concentrate on getting these in, and then we're going to get the front and back section on there, and then we're going to start cutting our sheets to fit between the frame and wrap around each of the spreaders at the location, the skin location I should say, where that comes down and meets that all the way around. And then there's going to be a doubler that will come around there. So have a weld seam and then a doubler on there and weld. So we're going to be stiffening up and strengthening the location of where these come in and join the mast itself. This is pretty close to the width of the groove by just a few thousandths. 2 squares coming down here. Clamp this down, clamped it down to the table, and this is going to be our vertical point where we'll be able to come off of the tip of each of the spreaders back to this point. I can hit the top one and the bottom one, and then we'll get this angle right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and tack them and get a substantial enough tack to where then I'll be able to go in the other room and we'll be able to roll and lay them around and get this a substantial weld from the support in the center to each of the tubes. We're not going to be able to get too much underneath and over the top of that, and that's not necessary. We're going to be grabbing enough of this surface around the outside of the shape. All right, so I just wanted to bring you in and let you know more about my setup and what I'm doing here. We rose the table of the mill all the way up, and we were able to reach across there, reach across here, and we had to tweak the thing a little bit. what looks good to the scribe lines on the center in between here is off just slightly. It's actually about 50 thousandths on the leading edge or the trailing edge off a center, or a combination of both of them. And so we've measured from here to the tube, front and back, and then from our pivot point here to here, and we're level. Now we're sighting in our open tubes here to make sure that our wire tube going in between here and here are not just off one side. They're equally set and they're not protruding in too far, so that the wire chases are going to be smooth and operable. Before we put our outer skins on, we will be able to reach in, and anywhere where weld has penetrated in and created a shape inside that tube that we don't really want to have there, we'll be able to reach in with some kind of a rotary burr or tool. We'll get it in there, we'll get it done, all right, and get it cleared out. But this really lets us see physically that we're not too far in and the wire's not going to be restricted, because once it enters here, we need to make that, you know, that turn. This is going to be lighting, so it, you know, you have forward or aft tube choice for entering your wiring into the main mast, and then it'll go down through the tubes, and then that's how it enters into the pilot house. It's going to be time for some new gloves here pretty soon. Um, all right, this is all about tack check, tack check, tack check, and all I need to do is get this tacked up strong enough to be able to unbolt it here, take it in the other room, and be able to roll it around to where I can get nice and comfortable. I got limited spaces in here, but this up in the air right here, this is stand up and it's in a pretty good position. So I think I'm gonna just take my time, see what I can do here. Okay, we're gonna revalidate all of our measurements just to make sure. I just don't want to be caught with my pants down. It does not appear that it has moved any, so I'm going on to the next tack. Get a little left hand action here. A little fatter on the front here, so it's a little bit more difficult here. Let's see how we do. Well, I managed to do it without sinking my tungsten in the middle of my puddle. And anybody that's TIG welded it and in the wrong position, left-handed, upside down and all of that knows that that's all about. All right, we're gonna go through and we're gonna check it again. We're gonna get this one all stable, and then we're gonna move and set up and get the next one on here. I had to move the table all the way this way so I could stand on the other side and I could get this hard to get pocket on the other side here with my right hand. And then we put a few tacks on the tubes. It flexes around because the skin is not on it, and you know, this is a pretty far stretch just to be set here with a couple tacks here. So it'll get stiffer as it comes together, but we're real happy. We maintained our level plane, our distance to focus with center line. We're happy. All right, we're having a little coffee break here, and we're going to move it that way, drop it down, and we're going to go prep the upper spreader. All right, we're hanging a plumb bob out from center, proven center, both sides equally. And we're going to drop this off the front leading edge of the upper spreader. And then we're going to measure it in relationship to the lower spreader so that we can keep them parallel with each other. Their spreaders, or their angle that they spread back, are actually two different angles, but we do want them to be equal on both sides so that we don't get any funny looks. uh, all right, we're just going to let those strings settle a little bit there, and then we'll get a tape measure. And we're just going to come behind here and measure out to our string there. Kind of swaying back and forth still, but it's about 3 5/8. This is pretty close as well. We're going to let them slow down a little bit. And when they're secure, then we'll go ahead and we'll get a good measurement on it. And then we're going to position the top in the direction that we feel it needs to be. We're so close on our dimensions from here to there, but we know that we are slightly longer on one wing than the other one. So to get a true leading edge is to come outside and then get that. You'll never see the variance of the length, but I don't want to judge this. All right, time to clear this off. We're going to go have some lunch, and then we're going to take this into the other room, and we're going to be able to set these up and weld these in solid where we need to have our welding done in this area, and then we can move on to other areas. We don't necessarily need to have it where we got it perfectly level, but we can always bring it back in here if we need to, and we will when we get ready to set the forward support for the array coming off the front. But for right now, we need to weld this in and then concentrate on our skin that we're going to add to this, and set up for our rosette welding on all of these pieces here. So awesome. These really helped out a lot on making sure that everything is in perspective. All right. Early this morning we started and we put all the backup strips in where we're going to need to be able to weld, you know, back up our weld on these seams right here. And this is faring in very, very, very nice. And advantage of having the plasma cutter and the experience is good because I only cut out one test piece, and then I was able to take it, slide it right up in, and make sure that I was drawing what I was measuring. Then after that, then I cut out the piece, and then I took it over this piece and put it up on this side here, and I was about 1/8 of an inch off difference on this here, and I modified the second cut. I cut that off, and I got that up there now. So the upper half, these two plates are cut out and fit in place. I will then mark them on the back side, and we got to drill for the rosette welds that are going to come in here on these angles that we added to each of the um, ribs. All right, and the wiring tubing is I've left it long. You know, we're going to be running a weld around here, and we're going to be running a weld around here, and then I'm going to have a sliding doubler that's going to come. It's actually going to accent both of the spreaders sticking out the side. All right, we got the light, so we have the flange that we're going to be putting here for the transom light, and then this is going to be a 3-hole flange, and then it'll go on up, and we'll have the anchor light, and the Fruno goes on the top, Starlink array. We got a doubler coming out here for lights, and then we got our antenna mount. There'll be 2 on each side of the upper spreader. All right, until next video, get it done.